Welcome back to another video, and today I'll be reviewing my most recent eyeshadow palettes. Welcome back, and today we're going to be doing my sort of bi-monthly eyeshadow palette collected review video. Sometimes I do skip this if there are other specific review videos that I prioritize before this one, but this month we are getting the sort of like monthly variation. We sometimes have more, sometimes less palettes. This month we're having the quite a typical month, so there's 4 palettes, and I did also, sometimes I rank these, sometimes if I have very similar feelings on the palettes, then they are just like in the like random order, but these for this month they actually are also in the order that I liked from them, from least to my favorite. And there's one palette that I did get as a gift from my friend, and I'll be of course transparent when the palette comes. But even though I have been gifted something, I am still going to be honest about it. So if I liked it, I will tell you. If I didn't like it, you will know it. But aside from the one palette that was gifted me from my friend, all the rest of these I have bought with my own money. So that has been, we can also make the conclusion that was the money well spent based on these videos. Anyway, let's start talking about the palettes, and I will be in this side, you will be seeing the swatch image and 3. Did I make 3? I have one smaller palette in this one, so there actually might be, so from the one palette there's going to be only 2 looks because it was a smaller palette, but from the rest I did get the sort of full 3 demo looks that I usually present in these videos. But let's start talking about the palettes in the order from the least favorite to my favorite one. So first one is actually the palette that's my least favorite one. However, I am actually gonna keep this one because there was a very specific looks that I did end up liking during this one, but we can say that this maybe wasn't also the best quality from the brand. So this is the Beauty War Multi-Finish eyeshadow palette from Kiko Milano. So this is the shade 02 All My Colors. This is from, I think, a collection that has been like discontinued from quite some time ago. And I'm gonna show this a bit closer because it is the more smaller one. So it is a bit of an interesting color story, and I was initially kind of thinking that while it was a bit mismatch, I was kind of thinking there is some like cool things going for it because it is like, especially considering it's a drugstore brand. So we basically have this pop of blue and we get some pink, and then there are like some other shades, and I think the standout shade is definitely this sort of rose gold shimmer over here. I'm gonna straight out pop in the 2 looks and swatches, and with this one the 2 looks were definitely the limit. I think considering the some of the issues I had with the mattes, this really was the limits. So I think what I would have changed in this one would have been that first of all, this beigey matte over here, even though it's one of the biggest shade in the palette, but you really have to build it, and even on my sort of very fair skin tone, I just couldn't like get it to show up. So I think if it would have been a bit more of a deeper brown, or maybe like any kind of mid-tone shade that would have packed more punch, it would have already brought much more versatility to this one. Similarly, something that was a bit disappointing was the pink shade over here. So with this one I was kinda able to get it built, but also very similarly I had to work very hard to get it to show up. And then there was this one over here. This also was more of a mid-tone shade rather than actually being a much deeper shade, because I was thinking that this would be a very good deepening up shade, but unfortunately this only builds to a mid-tone shades. I think the standout, I think the shimmers did work out very well, so I think this was very beautiful. The shimmery white shade over here, this also was very nice. It is more of a satin leaning shade, and also this like blue over here, I did use it in the one look as a liner color. I did feel I had to like build it a little bit, but I do think as a sort of like accent color, this also worked out very well. So wasn't my, so I think what really let this down was that almost all the or actually like all the matte shades in this one, they just didn't work out the way that I would have wanted them to work out. I am gonna keep this around because there was actually a very specific look. So what my kind of favorite look that you can actually see on one of the images was that I used this pink as an all-over shade on the lid. Then by building this one I was kind of able to get depth into my crease, and then I went with this sort of like rose gold shimmer all over my lid, and I do think it creates a nice look. So I'm gonna be keeping this one around, but just for like if you would see this in store, and even if you would get it on discount, I can definitely say that Kiko has produced better eyeshadow, and I think for a small palette I would especially expect all the shades to work out, and I think why this kind of fell very short for me was especially the fact that almost like none of the matte shades basically worked out the way I would have expected them to do, which is very like shame because Kiko can do good eyeshadow palettes, but this is also a bit of an issue with them that with Kiko it seems that you never quite know what you're getting because some of their collections the eyeshadow quality is very good, especially considering the pricing, and then sometimes this happens where the eyeshadow quality is very mismatchy between the shades. So this one, there is, as I said, a specific look that I did like making with this one, so this is going to be staying in my collection, but I would not recommend getting this one if you're looking to spend your own money to buying this one. So next is a Makeup Revolution palette that I thought that this would be my favorite from this series, but this shows that you really have to try makeup. So in order to know do you like them. So this was the last of these new Icon palette that I was wanting to try. So this is the Enchanted Icon. I now have tried all the ones that I want from the at least current line of palettes they have. I think they'll be probably launching one of these for Christmas because at least last year they came out with a limited edition one. So we shall see if I will be able to try that one. So I did discuss on my makeup haul video that this looks like a dupe for the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz. I don't think it's a shade to shade dupe, but it's kind of trying to give out the same vibe. And because this has this sort of like pinkish, neutral, purple leaning color story, I was thinking that this is probably gonna be my favorite, but let's just say I'm gonna pop in the looks and swatches to the side. As you can see from the looks, there isn't nothing inherently wrong with this one. The matte shades in this one work. I did stay away from the two creamy shades because the cream shades in these Icon palettes, unfortunately, they are very emollient. They don't settle down. We're going to be talking about a cream formula later in this video that didn't work out the way I want my cream shades to work out. But with these ones, if you have a very like super dry eyelids, then I think the creamy emollient cream shades might be like, that didn't actually make any sense, but anyway, then the cream shades might work out for you, but for me at least they just cause the eyeshadow to move around and crease, so I just ignore them completely with these palettes. But regarding like the mattes and shimmers, they did like work out quite well, but unfortunately why this was a letdown, I think it was related especially to the shimmer shades. So a lot of these shimmers here are more toppery-like, and I did recently try out the sort of newer palette in this range that was kind of like blue cool toned one, and with that one there were also a lot of toppers, but at least the toppers they kinda did different things. Unfortunately with this one, three of the toppers are pretty similar, so it goes to this one over here, then we have the pinkish one over here, and then there's another pinkish lilac one over here on this side. And when you have like three toppery purple pinkish shimmers that end up looking quite similar, that's gonna take away quite a lot of versatility for the palette. I also don't think this sort of like a gold shimmer over here, I think they were trying to make this like more of a, what I would say, cool tone electric yellow shimmer, but it kind of doesn't work out with the mattes and other shades that are included in this one. This one is like the one of the, aside from the gold shimmer, this is the like only true like opaque shimmer in this one. So I think what I'm gonna actually do is that I'm gonna be decluttering this one. So I think like compared to the Kiko one, there's nothing, as I said, there's nothing wrong with the quality. So if you are into this color story and you don't actually mind the fact that it has these sort of like similar looking toppery shimmers, then I think you're still gonna love this. And you, especially considering for drugstore, I think this is still like very nice and upgraded quality from what we used to see from Makeup Revolution. But just like I was like expecting a bit more from this, especially since I do know that they can do very nice palette and sort of curation of different kind of textures and shades based on the other palettes that I've tried. But this one, just because of things that are included in this one, just fell short for me, and that's the reason why I'm gonna be decluttering this one. But as you can see from the looks, if you are kind of vibing with the looks you're seeing and you're looking for something like this from a drugstore priced, like from drugstore category, then I would still like get this one. So now we're getting to the like two palettes that I like the most, and I was very much debating how I'm gonna arrange these because one of these has the advantage, which I'm gonna be talking next, that it is very inexpensive considering especially the range you're getting. The second one is very expensive, but you're not getting that much range, but I did still have to consider that maybe just with the other one the price definitely brings some quality. So my sort of like number 3 palette, and this is like my second favorite palette. So this is the Desert Haze from ByBeautyBay. This was actually their summer launch, but for me actually this was the perfect fall palette when I had this in my rotation. And I'm not joking when I say that this is like the best ByBeautyBay quality that we have seen with their limited edition collections. I do think in terms of like how stable their quality is, their baseline palettes still seem to do a bit better, but in terms of the limited edition, there's been some hit and misses, but this is like the best quality so far. And this is very inspiring, especially if you're thinking this as a fall themed palette. We have some like grungy greens, there's some oranges, we have some golds. It's like the perfect, I would say, like especially this sort of fall season palette when you still have the sort of leaves that are starting to change colors, and everything's like you still have a bit of sunlight. We are now just transitioning to the phase of the fall, which I would call the grungy phase of fall, when they're like the leaves are almost have fallen off from the trees and it's very grey. It's actually very rainy currently where I'm filming, but anyway, about this one. So, but for this sort of like beginning months of the fall, this is like perfect in terms of color story. So from the looks, I think you can kind of see that there are like few ways you can go kind of neutral with this one. You do have the option to go to green, also to kind of do a bit of fun things with the green ones, but I do think if you are going into this, you should still consider that it is essentially like it is still majority like a orangey brownish neutral palette. That there are like some pops in here, but there are a couple of things you can do with this one, but there's still majority of the shades are pretty warm tone leading. There were like some dots in this one. I think this yellow matte over here, it is very thin yellow matte. You do have to build it quite a lot. And I do have to say also with some of these deeper shades, so for example this one over here or this one dark green over here, you did have to work with them a little bit, and that is probably why I still ended up ranking this as the second favorite and not the first favorite, because while this is, I think, very good quality, especially considering the price and the range of shades you are getting, especially with some of these shades, you could still kind of see that, okay, we have some drugstore things, meaning that not all the shadows work perfectly. The shimmers in this one are beautiful. I even like the more like satiny kind of shimmers this has. So for example, this orangey shade over here is something that I used in one of the looks. And also these very sparkly shimmers, but there's quite a few in this one, very beautiful. And even though the sparkly shimmers, they kind of might, because I know some people have critique, and why I, for example, did stop at some point buying this limited edition one was that they were putting this sort of putty shades in the shimmer formulas, and I wasn't such a big fan of those formulas. With this one, the sparkly shimmers, they are more like what I would say traditional powder shadows. They do feel a bit because I use fingers with my shimmer shades, they did feel a bit dry, and I was kind of afraid because they had swatched out so well, but I could definitely feel that they did feel a bit dry when you initially put your finger in them, but actually the dryness, it really didn't like affect how they applied to the eyes. They applied to the eyes beautifully. So yeah, I think if you're looking for a very good drugstore palette in this kind of color story, I would like still get this one if you're especially into the tones that this has, and hopefully ByBeautyBay will keep up with the quality of this one with the limited edition palettes, because I do think this was quite awesome. And the number one palette, so I'm not gonna show this to the camera or like close down because this has the reflective packaging. So this was the Patrick Ta original, what was this called? Major Dimensions eyeshadow palette. So this was the like brown one, they have the berry one, and then they have all matte one, and then Patrick Ta has been coming out with some smaller variation. So this is boring AF. Like I have this kind of color story. I can actually, because I have the palette. So if you have the Natasha Denona I Need a Worm, we can like do this comparison side by side. How are we gonna do this? The Natasha Denona one doesn't have the creams. How am I gonna fit these to the same frame? I just dig out my... So, Natasha Denona, the Patrick Ta one, I don't think you need both. I'm just gonna say that without even showing like the swatches and demo looks. This has more shades, it has the kind of fun multi-chrome, so maybe you actually get more versatility with this one, but essentially these two are very similar, so you don't necessarily need both. Having said that, I actually like especially the matte formula more in this one than the Natasha Denona one. I do think I've been a bit honest that while I do like collecting my Natasha Denona palettes, I don't buy every Natasha Denona palette, but I do get the ones that I like the color stories in. But Natasha Denona's mattes have actually never been my favorites. They are kind of interesting to work with, that they can be a bit stiff to work with. You kind of still end up getting always very nice looks with them at the end of the day, but I do feel you have to work with her mattes a bit more. And with the shimmers, I have discussed this extensively. I would wish she would stop messing with her shimmer formulas, because with some palettes the shimmer formulas are very awesome. Then with some they go back to the like more satiny like shimmers, and it's like a hot mess every time she releases, especially a new bigger palette, what kind of shimmer formula you're getting. But this one, I can't of course speak for the other palettes that have been launched in this sort of big format, but I do think with this one, the matte formula especially, it's such a very nice formula. I'm gonna pop in the swatches and look also while I talk about the matte formula. So it's very like, it's pigmented, but it blends so effortlessly, and you can see from the like looks, like I think all the looks with this one, they are very basic looks, but they were very effortless to like create. They looked very nice. And what I do appreciate with this one, because this has the 2 cream shades, these shades actually do settle down on your lids, and that's a must for me. If you're gonna include cream shades on a eyeshadow palette, for me, they need to be the kind of cream shades that actually settle down, because otherwise they are just gonna mess the eyeshadow on top of them, and they are gonna cause creasing. With this one, I can actually say that I can use this palette completely as a whole. I don't have to ignore shades, and especially considering that these are pretty pricey on euros. On Cult Beauty's website, these are over 70 euros. I got discount from mine, so I luckily didn't pay the full price. But these are the ByBeautyBay tall palettes. These are expensive palettes, so for that price you are also kind of like expecting things to work out effortlessly. But I was like, as I said, very positively surprised. As I said, if you have the Neutrogena I Need a Warm palette, or if you have any kind of other like warm tone neutral palette that has a very similar color story and you actually like that, I don't necessarily think this is gonna bring any added value. I also think the shimmer formula of this one very nice, very sparkly, and was also something like very smooth. I think this is the kind of shimmer formula that you can actually also pick up with a brush. So if you don't like using fingers, because I do know not all people like that, you can pick out this with a brush and you get a very opaque finish with also brush application. And I think these are also shimmers that are gonna be flattering on different kind of eyelids. So if you have more textured eyelids, I would think that these will also suit the more textured eyelids, because I don't think these are shimmers that kind of emphasize textures. They go on very smoothly. So I think we are gonna be making some hard decisions when we get to my end of the year declutter, because I have been quite honest usually that the I Need a Warm and Neutrogena palette, which is now we're doing quite a lot of comparison to that one, but I do think because they are so similar, it's warranted. So I think when we are going to get to my end of the year declutter, it might be that because I am actually just liking the formula of the mattes, this one much more, I might actually maybe keep this one and declutter and the Neutrogena one, but we shall see what's gonna happen. But would I still like, do you have to buy this considering that it's very expensive? I do think there are like alternatives, and there might be alternatives that are less costly, but I think still if you've been eyeing this one and if you are able to get a discount from this, maybe don't pay the full 70 euros for this one, maybe wait for a sale. I have heard a talk and a lot of reviews that these do expire quickly, because Patrick Thaw has hopped to the whole clean beauty thing, and we all know I'm not a fan of clean beauty marketing because it's not in any way or form regulated, and since apparently this doesn't maybe have the best preservatives, this might not last that long. So also, if you're someone like me who has a huge eyeshadow collection, this might make sense because this might expire much quicker than some of your other eyeshadow palettes. But if you are someone who would maybe use this particular palette like all day, and this is your like all day every day, and it's your like only eyeshadow palette for neutrals, I do think you're gonna love this one. But just I thought especially that the expiration point would be something to bring out, because I have seen so many, like it's not like one review channel, but so many people who have gotten one of these like bigger Patrick Thaw palettes saying that especially the ones that have the shimmer shades, they do tend to expire quicker because of maybe the formulations that he uses. But I'm gonna hope that this will at least like last, like hopefully mine's not gonna get moldy. I've seen some horrible pictures of people like showing their palettes getting moldy, so I hope mine is gonna at least last maybe over at least maybe a couple of years, so let's just hope. But I can't deny the fact that this is like good quality eyeshadow, and this maybe shows that sometimes it is worth like to spend a bit more to get a very nice quality eyeshadow palette. But it is still a basic palette, and I would still consider that it's a more expensive palette. Look into your stash and see do you have something similar, because I still don't think it's a must. those were the palettes I had to review for this month. Comment down below what have maybe been your top palettes you've been trying out. Maybe they are some older palettes, or maybe you've gotten some new ones, or also if you've been trying out some palettes that we should avoid, then of course let us know. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from our future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog on Instagram. I hope I'm going to see you in another video. Bye bye!